Chosen name Alaravas. The gate chimed softly at 2017 a.m., a sound I'd programmed to be discreet yet unmistakable, like a whisper in a library. On the high-resolution monitor, 3 figures stood drenched in the relentless Marin Ridge downpour. My mother, my sister, and her husband. Their silhouettes trembling against the unyielding steel of my front gate. They pounded on the intercom, their voices muffled by the storm and my soundproofed walls. I'd vanished from their lives, severed every digital thread, relocated across the country. Yet here they were, clawing at my fortress. I pressed record, activated the 2-way audio, and spoke, my voice steady as the concrete beneath my home. How did you find me? I'm Alaravas 34, a fortress builder by trade, a security systems architect by necessity. I run Apex Shield Solutions, a niche firm that doesn't just install alarms. We engineer impenetrable ecosystems. We probe a client's defenses, expose every vulnerability, and seal them before malice can slip through. I'm exceptional at fortifying the world around me, but I failed spectacularly at applying those principles to my own blood. I fled Willow Creek, Pennsylvania, because the breach wasn't in my servers or my locks. It was in the people I called family. Marin Ridge, California, was my antidote to arid, steep, and gloriously detached. I didn't buy a house, I acquired a citadel. From the street, it's a minimalist slab of glass and stone, nestled into a hillside with sweeping views of the Pacific. But its bones are fortified, triple-layered walls with sound-dampening foam, rated to STC 70, silencing the world outside and any scream within. The perimeter is my masterpiece. Under a shell company, Apex Shield installed a grid of 8K thermal cameras, each paired with AI that distinguishes a coyote's gait from a human's intent. The gate, disguised as weathered cedar, is a solid titanium core, controlled by a license plate scanner tied to a whitelist of 3 vehicles: mine, my attorney's, and an approved courier. The driveway. A minefield of buried vibration sensors, calibrated to detect everything from a skateboard to a delivery van. I know every footstep before it lands. Leaving Willow Creek was simple. Erasing myself was an art. The day my old house sold, I executed a digital purge. My phone number, a 15-year companion, was terminated. My email accounts, flooded with spam, were deleted. Social media, wiped clean, contacts erased, accounts set to self-destruct. I became a phantom, with one exception: a legal mailbox in San Francisco, registered to my LLC, for court summons or tax filings only. No birthday cards, no tear-soaked pleas. Work filled the void. Apex Shield was juggling 2 contracts, a full overhaul for St. Mary's Medical Center, where I designed RFI'd, tagged badges, syncs to staff schedules to lock out unauthorized access, and a stress test for a fintech startup's blockchain vault. I exposed a 0-day exploit in their encryption in 36 hours. My days stretched to 18 hours, drowning in schematics and threat models, while I ignored the gaping wound I'd cauterized. My family. Their silence was deafening. No calls to my old number, no emails to my dead accounts, no whispers through mutual friends. By week 3, their apathy was a verdict. They didn't miss me, only my wallet. The realization was a cold, hollow space, like a server room after the power's cut. My Marin Ridge fortress wasn't just a home, it was a proof of concept. The property is owned by Ridge Haven Properties, LLC, a Delaware entity with a Nevada proxy address. Public records lead to a 15,000 legal labyrinth. In the foundation, a biometric safe houses my evidence, external drives with every bank transfer, every text demanding cash, every email laced with guilt. It's not nostalgia, it's ammunition. My perimeter ping system, typically for corporate clients, scans for lingering Bluetooth or Wi-Fi signals. A phone idling too long near my gate, I know before the driver blinks. My routine was monastic work until 1 a.m., sip lavender tea, run a full security audit. License plate logs, only my car and the courier, Thermal scans deer foxes, nothing human. Perimeter pings empty. For 22 nights, my fortress was impregnable. Then, night 22 shattered the calm. At 20:13 am, the ping log exploded. 4 unknown devices, stationary at my gate. Adrenaline surged, but my training locked in. I patched into the gate's 80K camera, infrared slicing through the rain. There they were, my mother, Clara, my sister, Ivy, and her husband, Nolan. Soaked and frantic, pounding the intercom. Clara's fists blurred in the low light. Ivy clutched her arms, shivering. Nolan stared up, desperate, clueless about the camera's lens. I felt nothing but the monitor's cool edge under my palm. This wasn't a reunion. This was an intrusion. To understand their audacity, you need the backstory of their exploitation. My family was 4, but only 3 formed the hive mind. Clara, my mother, saw her comfort as a universal debt, her kids the enforcers. My father, Henry, was a gentle giant, running a struggling diner that smelled of coffee and grace. He worked dawn to dusk, his exhaustion a blindfold. He trusted Clara, adored Ivy, and admired me from afar, like I was a gadget he couldn't operate. Ivy, 2 years my junior, mastered weaponized helplessness. Too artistic for jobs or budgets. Nolan, her husband, was a mid-tier marketing exec with a predator's grin. He didn't marry Ivy, he annexed her, eyeing my success as his jackpot. The grift began innocently, a 200 phone bill, a 500 car fix. Then I patented a biometric lock system, and their requests became entitlements. In 2 years, I logged 78,400 blood from me, 112,000 for their leaking roof, our faulty furnace, 15,000 hours for Ivy's medical, cosmetic surgery, 7,000 for Nolan's surefire crypto scheme, and a 35,000 family trip to Bali. I paid to avoid Clara's tears, Ivy's tantrums, Nolan's smirks. They mocked my work. Cute. Your little gadget hobby, Clara would say, sipping wine I'd funded, while cashing my checks. The first fracture came on their patio. I was troubleshooting their Wi-Fi, a thankless role. Hidden by the screen door, I overheard Ivy and Clara. Nolan's bonus is coming, Ivy whispered. If Alara covers the car's final payment, we're golden. She's been stingy, Clara hissed. Mention Henry's heart again. That always works. I froze, rewired the router, and left. I didn't confront them. I started logging. The second crack was Nolan, cornering me in their kitchen while Henry napped. Alara, we need to discuss Clara's estate, he said, stirring a whiskey I'd paid for. You're in the will, but your tax bracket's a problem. If we shift assets to Ivy, lower bracket, it's cleaner. We'll take care of you informally. He wanted my inheritance rerouted to Ivy, with a promise to share. I nodded, seething. The third was a GoFundMe, Clara's Fight for Life, run by Ivy. It claimed Clara had a rare autoimmune disease, needing 60,000 for treatment. A grainy photo from her gallbladder surgery was the proof. They'd raised 22,000. Clara's medical portal. A clean checkup. I archived the page. Donor list, everything. The final breach was a bank alert. My friend Lena, a loan officer, called. Alara, off the record. Your parents applied for a 180,000 home equity loan. You're the co-signer. My credit was pristine. Their diner barely broke even. They'd used a durable power of attorney I'd signed for emergencies to forge my signature. I accessed their router logs, set up by me, naturally. The loan application traced to Nolan's office Wi-Fi, a shared drive, mislabeled, family photos, held scans of my ID, my social security card, and an email chain. Ivy, will she notice? Nolan, it's digital, airtight. We pay off our debts, fund the new house. She'll cover it or lose the diner. They bet I'd pay to save Henry's business. I didn't. I froze my credit, filed an identity theft report, and hired a forensic analyst. The report confirmed the forgery, pinpointing Nolan's laptop. I called my attorney, Lena, and began liquidating my Pennsylvania life. Henry was the wild card. He knew nothing, lost in his diner's ledger. I flew him to Denver, not for dinner but to a forensic accountant's office. "Henry, this is Ms. Torrin," I said, sliding the loan docs across. "That's my signature, forged. If they default, your diner's collateral." He stared, then crumpled. "Clara wouldn't. Nolan did," I said. "Ivy and Clara helped. We built a trust for his diner, funded by me, legally untouchable." By the time he returned to Willow Creek, Henry was financially firewalled. Their desperation peaked with a text from Ivy Need, an 18,000 by Monday. Property taxes for the house. Nolan's handling the loan. Send to Clara's account. They were taxing a house they were stealing. I didn't reply. I packed, drove west, and vanished. Until night 22, when they stood at my gate, demanding entry to the fortress I'd built to exile them. New scene. The neighbor's warning 3 days before the gate incident. My neighbor, Victor, a retired naval officer, knocked on my door. I'd met him once, briefing him on my testbed security systems. "Alara," he said, holding a coffee, "saw a car circling the ridge yesterday. Gray sedan, slowed by every driveway. Not a realtor, not a delivery. Felt off." I nodded, thanking him, but my system had logged nothing. I upgraded the perimeter ping to flag any vehicle, pausing over 30 seconds. Victor's hunch was the first tremor, the gate breach was the quake. New dialogue. The first audit on night 10, I called my lead analyst, Juno from Apex Shield. "Run a deep scan on my personal network," I said. "Assume I'm the target." She laughed. "You're paranoid, boss." "Paranoid keeps clients alive," I shot back. Her report found a dormant tracker on my old email, buried in a newsletter sign-up from Willow Creek. I'd missed it. I purged it, but it was a reminder. They were still sniffing. New example. The church donation. Clara's church was her stage. She once called, sobbing. "The youth center needs $5,000 for repairs, Alara. It's for the kids." I sent it, then found the repairs. Were a new sound system for her choir. I logged the transfer, the church's thank you email, and Clara's smug follow up. "You're a blessing, honey." The gate confrontation was a calculated ambush. I activated military-grade LED panels, 100 Zalos and lumens flooding the driveway. They shielded their eyes, disoriented. Directional mics captured every word, speakers broadcast my voice like a sentinel. "State your purpose. You're on recorded private property." Clara lunged at the intercom. "Alara, it's Mom! Open the gate, we're soaked!" "Purpose," I repeated. Ivy screamed, "We're your family." "You're here for money," I said. "Admit it." Silence. Then Nolan's polished lie. "We just want to talk." I listed their crimes: forged loan, fake GoFundMe, podcast smears. They cracked. Nolan confessed first, voice breaking. "I used your signature for the loan." Ivy followed, hysterical. "I made the GoFundMe. We needed it." Clara whimpered. "I need you." I called security. They fled as the patrol's lights crested the hill. New scene. The decoy's design. The Marin Ridge house was a honeypot. I'd bought my real home, a 12th floor condo in San Francisco, under Pacific Crest Holdings LLC, 6 months earlier. The decoy was a stage every camera, sensor, and baller designed to lure and trap. I worked from the condo, piping data to the decoy's servers. My family fell for it, but a third car that night, a gray sedan, watched from the shadows. I missed it, fixated on their confessions. New dialogue. The PI's trace post. Gate. I tasked Juno with tracing the sedan. "It's a rental," she said. "Fresno agency, billed to a shell company." Dig deeper. She found a private investigator hired by Nolan with GoFundMe scraps. He'd tailed my LLC's mail drop, then staked out Marin Ridge. I fed his plate to the decoy's AI, flagging future pings. The fallout was surgical. I appended their confessions to the police report. A civil suit demanded $78,400 legal fees and damages for defamation. I sent a truth dossier to Willow Creek's newspaper, Clara's Church, and the podcast's parent company, Timelines. GoFundMe takedown notice, forged documents. The podcast retracted, the church shunned Clara. Henry's diner thrived in a new trust. Nolan lost his job. Ivy's social media went dark. A restraining order barred them from my properties. New scene, the redevelopment deal, their house, foreclosed by my trust, became a bargaining chip. A developer offered $1.2 million for the block. I countered market value plus a 20-year lease for Henry's diner at 30% rent. They agreed. Henry's new location in a gleaming retail plaza became Willow Creek's heart. On November 10, 2025, my 35th birthday, I watched Henry cut the ribbon at his new diner via a discreet camera. Ivy texted, begging for a job. Henry deleted it. Clara showed up, demanding to reconcile. Henry handed her my attorney's card and closed the door. I flew in for the opening, disguised in a hoodie, watching from the crowd. Henry was radiant free. I left before he saw me. Back in my condo, a ping alerted a gray sedan, probing the decoy's neighborhood. Not my family, a PI, still hunting. I traced him, extended the restraining order, and neutralized the threat. The decoy's feeds went dark. I'd won. The lawsuits settled. Repayments trickled in. Henry thrived. My fortress, both of them held. I built systems to protect the world. Now, I protect myself. The settlement checks arrived like clockwork every 15th of the month. Fern's $200 from Nolan, Watt $800 from Ivy, $600 from Clara. Each one a grudging confession in ink. I deposited them without ceremony into a dedicated account labeled restitution, watching the balance climb toward the $78,400 they owed. My attorney, Lena, filed quarterly updates with the court, each stamped with the notary's seal and the judge's initials. The restraining order was ironclad. 500 yards from me, my properties, my father. Violate it, and the civil suit tripled in damages. They didn't test it. Henry's new diner, Henry's Hearth, opened in the Cedar Crossing development to lines around the block. Local news ran a feature. From corner shop to community anchor. How one man rebuilt after heartbreak. The article never mentioned me, per Henry's request. He wore a crisp white apron, his smile genuine, the weight of decades lifted. His weekly video calls were short, warm. Sold 400 turkey clubs today. He'd say, eyes bright. Your trust paid for the new ovens. They're beauties. I'd nod, sipping coffee in my San Francisco condo, the real fortress, 17 floors above the city's hum. But vigilance never sleeps. On December 3, 2025, at 3:42 of the morning, the decoy house in Marin Ridge pinged again. Not the PI. He'd been neutralized, his license suspended after Lena's motion. This was new. A drone, low-altitude, thermal signature masked, hovering 120 feet above the ridge. My AI flagged it as anomalous aerial object, cross-referencing FA logs. No registered flight plan. I patched into the decoy's rooftop array, 4 gimbal-mounted 8K cameras with night vision. The drone was sleek, matte black, no lights, no markings. It lingered for 90 seconds, scanning the decoy's roof, then banked sharply and vanished toward the coast. I didn't panic. I escalated. I called Juno at Apex Shield. Trace the drone's MAC address, I said. I want its origin, its pilot, its payload. She worked through the night. By dawn, she had the drone launched from a private helipad in Half Moon Bay, owned by a shell company, Obsidian Crest Ventures. A quick dive into corporate filings revealed a single director, Nolan Pierce. He'd funneled his last $40,000, liquidated from his 41 Sakaif, into a drone surveillance startup, hiring ex-military pilots to test market viability. The target, my decoy. He was still hunting, convinced the Marin Ridge house was my real home. New scene, the drone intercept. I didn't wait. I activated the decoy's counter-drone system, a prototype I'd been testing for a defense contractor. 4 high-powered directional jammers, disguised as landscape lights, pulsed a targeted EMP burst. The drone's feed cut mid-scan. It wobbled, then plummeted into the ravine behind the property, intact but fried. I dispatched a retrieval team. 2 off-duty sheriffs I'd contracted. They recovered the drone at 6:12 a.m., bagged it, and delivered it to Lena's office. The memory card held 42 minutes of footage, thermal scans of the decoy, close-ups of the gate, and a voice log. Nolan's, frantic, zoom on the east wing. That's gotta be her office. If we map the heat signatures, we'll know when she's home. Lena filed an emergency addendum to the restraining order, attaching the drone, the footage, and a sworn affidavit from the retrieval team. The judge, already disgusted, issued a bench warrant. Nolan was arrested at 9:47 a.m. on December 4, 2025, in a Palo Alto coffee shop mid-pitch to investors. The charges: felony stalking, violation of a protective order, and illegal surveillance. His startup collapsed before lunch. New dialogue: Ivy's breakdown. Ivy called Henry from a payphone, sobbing. "Dad, they took Nolan. They're saying jail. I have nothing. The apartment's gone. Please." Henry's voice was steel. "You made your choices, Ivy. My lawyer's number is on the card. Don't call this one again." He hung up, then texted me. She sounded small. I didn't feel bad. Clara's collapse was quieter. She moved into a studio apartment above a laundromat in Willow Creek, paid for by church charity. Ironic, given her fraud. She sent one letter, handwritten, delivered to Henry's diner. "Alara, I was wrong. I'm sick now, really. Forgive me." Henry scanned it, emailed it to Lena. "My medical contact at St. Mary's ran Clara's records. Early stage SOAP, manageable, not fatal." The letter was another play. Lena sent a cease and desist. Clara never wrote again. New scene: the FINRA complaint. I'd held the FINRA complaint over Nolan like a guillotine. With his arrest, I dropped it. The Financial Industry Regulatory Authority opened a case within 48 hours. Nolan's licenses, Series 7 and 63, 65, were revoked permanently. He was barred from any securities-related work nationwide for life. His name appeared on their public broker check, a scarlet letter. No firm would touch him. New example: the community shunning. Willow Creek's gossip mill turned brutal. The church removed Clara's name from the prayer list. The local diner where Henry once slaved refused her tab. Cash only. Ma'am. Ivy was ghosted by every friend she'd bragged to about Bali. A former classmate posted on the town Facebook group, "Remember when Ivy said her sister was too busy to help their sick mom? Turns out the mom wasn't sick." Wild. The post got 87 shares. New scene. The condo's true defenses. My real home, the 17th floor condo, was a different beast. No perimeter to breach, just a lobby with facial recognition, a concierge who'd served in Mossad, and an elevator that required a retinal scan. My unit's door was ballistic steel, disguised as oak. Inside, a Faraday cage server room ran my real command center, air gapped from the decoy. I worked here, slept here, lived here. The decoy was a museum now, lights on, timers, a ghost house. On January 17, 2026, a final ping came, not from Marin Ridge, but from San Francisco, a delivery van, idling outside my condo's garage. The building's AI flagged it no scheduled drop, loitering 4 minutes. I patched into the lobby feed. The driver wore a career uniform, but his shoes were wrong, tactical boots. I called the concierge, ex-Mossad Eli. "Hold him. I'm coming down." I took the service elevator, armed with a taser and Lena's number on speed dial. Eli had the driver pinned against the wall. "Package in hand. Open it," I said. Inside, a burner phone and a note. "We know where you really live. 500K or the world sees your logs." New dialogue. The blackmailer's mistake. I laughed, cold and sharp. "You think my logs are a secret?" I said to the driver, who was sweating. "They're my weapon." I called Juno. Traced the phone's IMEI. She had it in 20 minutes, registered to a prepaid account in Fresno. The same PI, now desperate, working freelance after Nolan's arrest. He'd hacked the building's contractor database, found my condo's LLC, amateur. I handed the phone to Li. Call SFPD, tell them we have a blackmailer. The PI was arrested by noon, charged with extortion. His confession named Ivy as the financier. She'd sold her car for $12,000 to fund the scheme. New scene. The public reckoning. Ivy's trial was swift. The blackmail, plus her GoFundMe fraud, earned her 18 months probation and 200 hours community service, cleaning the church she'd scammed. She showed up in an orange vest, picking up litter outside Henry's hearth. Customers walked past, some whispering, some filming. Henry never looked out the window. Clara's probation hearing was quieter. She pled no contest to misdemeanor fraud, paid $22,000 in restitution to GoFundMe donors, and was ordered to attend financial literacy classes. She sat alone in the courtroom, gray and diminished. New example: Henry's legacy. Henry hired Maria, his assistant, as general manager. She expanded the menu, vegan options, craft sodas. The diner grossed $1.2 million in its first year. Henry donated 10% to a local food bank, in my name, anonymously. I found out when the bank sent a thank you plaque to Apex Shield. I hung it in my condo, next to the drone's fried circuit board, my trophy. New scene. The final firewall. On March 1, 2026, I upgraded the condo's defenses. I installed a biometric panic room, steel walls, independent air, satellite uplink. I wrote a new script for the decoy if breached. It triggers a full data wipe, then uploads a decoy archive to a public server. Fake logs, fake emails, a digital wild goose chase. Let them chase ghosts. Nolan served 60 days for stalking, released with an ankle monitor. He took a job washing dishes at a truck stop, $14 an hour. Ivy moved into a studio with 2 roommates, working retail. Clara lived on Social Security, her church friends long gone. New dialogue. Henry's choice. On our last call, Henry said, "I'm selling the old house lot. The trust doesn't need it." I nodded. "Build something new," I said. He did. A community garden, dedicated to second chances. He invited the town, not Clara, not Ivy. They didn't come. I flew to Pennsylvania one last time, incognito. The garden was lush, kids planting tomatoes. Henry knelt in the dirt, laughing with a volunteer. I watched from my rental car, 200 yards away. Close enough to see his joy, far enough to stay invisible. I drove to the airport, boarded a flight to San Francisco, and never looked back. My condo's server hummed. The decoy was dark. The restitution account hit $78,400 paid in full. Lena filed the final dismissal. The judge signed it. Case closed. I stood on my balcony 17 floors up, the Pacific glittering below. My phone buzzed, a push notification from Apex Shield. System status. All clear. I smiled small and real. The fortress wasn't just walls or code. It was me, unbreached, unbowed, unbreakable.